Well, I just want to say, first of all, how proud I am to be your pastor, that I can stand up and share a need and invite a community. And like that, we all say, yeah, we're in. That kind of coming forward, I know you guys are maybe getting used to this church, that's normal to you. Just want you to know that ain't normal. That ain't normal to do that. That's special. And so when I see that happen, it makes me feel very proud. We're talking today about fatherhood. The first thing I want to do is I would like to read to you some questions. I just sat down and I dumped my father brain in questions. And I thought, I want to just read these questions to the congregation because I think what it's going to do is, if you are a father, you're going to hear your questions in here too. And you might be given permission to keep questioning those questions because now you've heard there's another dad asking the same thing. If you're not a father, but you kind of wonder, how can I stand next to a father? How can I support a father? What's it like to be a father? You're going to hear some questions here that are quite revealing and telling of what it's like to be a father. And the whole purpose of this is, I just read Mark 9, and there's a story that we're going to dig into, but all I've read so far is that there's a big commotion, and then Jesus addresses the commotion to figure out what's happening, and a father comes and says, I brought you my son. And I promise you, every father in the room, their heart stopped for just a second. Because that touches something in the father heart. And so what I want to do before we get into the text is I want to just kind of break open that father heart for all of us to be able to grab onto, because we're going to then go through Mark 9 and really address this father. Here are my questions. Can I be a good father? Was my father a good father? Can I be a better father than my father? How do good fathers raise children? How do good fathers encourage children? How do good fathers discipline children? How do good fathers teach children? And can I do any of this? If I mess up as a father, how will it likely happen? If I mess up as a father, what will it cause? If I mess up as a father, can it be fixed? Am I allowed to ask for help? From who? How often? About what? Until when? How will I know if I'm doing a good job? When will I know if I'm doing a good job? Who will tell me if I'm doing a good job? If you're a father and you heard my questions, can you just, for the room, yell out, I hear you? Yeah, you did. I just want the room to know that fathers are under an enormous amount of pressure to do things and to look like things, and inside, we're all asking these questions at the same time. I'm a good dad, wondering what it is to be a good dad. I'm a strong father, wondering what a strong father might be doing right now. So let's read the text. Here's the story, Mark 9, if you want to turn there, verse 14. And we're going to read it all the way through, verse 14 to 29. When they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them, the teachers of the law arguing with them. As soon as all the disciples saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. What are you arguing with him about? He said. A man in the crowd answered, Teacher, I brought you my son, who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashing his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. You unbelieving generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me. So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, he immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, How long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. It has often thrown him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, just take pity on us and help us. If you can, Jesus said. Everything is possible for one who believes. Immediately, the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. When Jesus saw that the crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. You deaf and mute spirit, he said, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus had gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, why couldn't we drive him out? He replied, this kind can only come out by prayer. Now, I want to give you the outline. Sophie, I've gone out of order. If you can go back to the outline, this is where we're going in today's sermon. That's it. I first want to just take a look at a father's heart. We're going to use the picture to do that that we see in this story. And we're going to talk about the father's big idea. And then we're going to close with the actions of a godly father. And I just want to make a distinction between actions of God the Father versus actions of a godly father. We are going to talk about God the Father today, but if you have been reborn in Jesus Christ and Jesus is alive in you, you're a godly father. And so the question today is, what does that do? What does a godly father do? First, a father's heart. It says in verse 21 and 22, Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? From childhood. Look at this picture. From childhood. It has often thrown him into the fire. And as a father, you might have this picture in your head. My dad used to take me and my two brothers on father-son campouts. And he would make a fire. I remember him telling us one time that when we were toddlers, we're all young, and it's one adult with three little boys who are all so excited to be camping with their dad. And we show up, and he's over here doing the tent saying, come on, boys, help me out. And he turns around. We've only been there 30 seconds, and all three of us are in the ashes of the previous fire pit just stomping around. It's all over. It's too late. Ashes all over the little boys. This is what dads think about when we think of fire and kids. Campfires. This father is reflecting on his relationship with his son in childhood and remembering how whatever's wrong with him tried to throw him into that fire. That's what he's been carrying in his father's heart. What about the water? You think about going fishing. You think about going swimming. You think about sitting by the lake and having important conversations. Not this father. He's sitting there. He's brought his son to Jesus. And his memories, if I get my son near the water, whatever's wrong with him might throw him into the water to kill him. His father's heart has been carrying around this burden. But so has yours, and so has mine. I have this in my heart. One time at a camp, my daughter Sophie was riding a bike, and it was raining, and she turned left too quick. And it went down, and she hit her head, and I heard the screaming, and a friend was carrying her towards us, and she had blood on her face, and he was carrying her, and immediately my father heart kicked in. Give me the girl. And I carried her. And I felt like the greatest dad. I'll repair this damage. And I carried her to the nurse. I said, she got boo-boo, you fix it. Fathers know this feeling. When you're a father and there is a problem, the father heart, lights on fire. I'll fix it. I'll take care of it, everyone. That's the father heart. Comes burning out of us. Some of this comes from the divine. The provider and the protector instinct. That's what I feel. I told you at the beginning that all fathers feel this pressure to look a certain way, and it comes from exterior pressure, but we also have an interior pressure, like it just bubbles out of me. I want to provide for my family, and I want to protect my family, and it oozes out of me in everything that I do. How do you know I'm a good father? Because I provided for them, and I protected them. Where did that come from? Well, a lot of it came from our godly Father. It says in James 1 that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father. So our Father provides for us, and we're made in His image. Fathers want to provide, just like our Father provides for us. What about protection? Jesus Himself, the Son of God, says of His Father in Matthew 26, "Do you not think I can call on my Father, and He will at once send all the protection I need?" That's how He brags about His dad, and that's what we feel. I want for my family and my children and my community to look at me and think, now that is a father that provides and protects. Awesome. What I want to do for just a moment is I want to elevate that. Sometimes the provide and the protect gets kind of down. It comes out of us naturally because we're made in the image of God, but then the measurements of whether we're doing it, they get reduced down into lower worldly measurements. And so I just want to take a few moments and I want to elevate those two questions. Fathers, you want to provide and protect. What does provide mean? First, provide more character than cash. The world tells you that's what providing is. Does your family have everything that they want? Do they have the nicest version of everything that they want? Do they get to surround themselves, comfort themselves, adorn themselves, entertain themselves? If they get to do all that stuff, that must mean you're a good provider. And what I want to tell you is that one of the most damaging effects on the development of the character of your family is over-providing cash. And I'm using cash for just stuff. We want to tell our family, by the way, I believe you heard beautiful words from Sean, a father right here, who said, I want for my family to see that I love my Savior. Our Savior is our provider. And if we provide everything, it's very difficult to provide every need for everything that our family wants, and at the same time, teach them how to trust God as the provider. It's very difficult to develop your family in character if they are surrounded by every comfort known to man. So good fathers, providing is not buying everything. Providing is more character than cash. And I have a better statement for it. If you want to know in short, when you're making decisions, how do I provide for my family? It's this statement. Provide that which cannot rot. So we had this funny thing that happened during COVID when we were still in Uganda. We were locked down. Like we were not allowed to even leave our house. And suddenly it's Ruby's birthday. We don't have any presents. So we got our heads together to figure out, okay, what do we do for a 7 or 8 year old little girl in a ridiculous once-in-a-lifetime situation that you can't buy presents? And so what we did is we divided up 1 or 2 hours sections of time that we gave to her, and it was one-on-one attention. So I don't remember all of them. I remember my time was that we moved a mattress down onto the ground and we hung these like sheets and things up, and then we got under there with little snacks, and I read her stories for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I remember, I think, Sophie, did you bake with her? Yeah. Each one of us did something that was a favorite thing. Now, this is 2 years later, and yesterday sat down and I asked Ruby, do you remember that birthday? And she went one by one and remembered every single thing that she did with every member of our family. Then I said, do you remember anything that you received for your birthday the year after that? That's been a year nearer to us, a year less of memory. Couldn't remember one thing. All she could remember was stuff that she did with her friends and valuable time. Fathers, provide that which cannot rot. You feel a pressure to work more hours, make more money. And for many of you, the extra hours that you're working to buy the thing that you think they need actually would be better for them if you gave them the hours and didn't work them. Work less hours and give them the stuff that cannot rot, because all the hours that you're putting in to surround your family with all the luxuries and comforts of the wonderful American life are going to turn back into dirt. What can't turn into dirt is that moment of love, that moment of wisdom, that moment of character that you instill, and you can only do it when you sit next to them, when you throw a ball with them, when you play frisbee, when you play with the dog. Provide that which cannot rot. Second, sometimes providing is withholding. Fathers, you're shaping your families at all times. You're always shaping. I don't want to go too long on this because I actually have a strong point and I'm not even sure how to make it. Sometimes providing is withholding. I think if you would travel a little bit to other cultures and see how other cultures raise kids, you'd be shocked at how formable children are. You're always forming them. So we have these perceptions in our mind of who kids are and what kids can do. They're a lot more than that. I want to tell you that one time I'm preaching in a church in Uganda, and there in the front row is a wooden pew. It's just a bench. There's no back on it. It's about 8 feet long, and it's got about, I'm joking, 40 toddlers. It felt like there's 40 toddlers sitting right there. And I'm sitting over here getting ready to preach and thinking, how in the world? I know that they're Africans and they're going to want me to preach for an hour or more. And there's all these toddlers sitting there, and none of them have any coloring books. They don't have any tablets. They don't have anything to keep them. They sat there the whole time. Toddlers on a wooden bench with no entertainment. Fathers, sometimes providing is withholding. Everything you do shapes your child. If you think, my child has a short attention span, I have to provide this for them in order to keep them, no, we are actually training them to have a short attention span. You form them however you want to form them, and we together form them. Part of the reason that those kids can all sit on a seat the entire time is because they knew everyone behind me is my mom and dad. Everyone behind me. I don't have one mom back there that's going to, all those women are my mommies. And I can't do anything. I'm going to sit here with my friends and I'm going to listen to this sermon. Everything you do shapes your child. And sometimes providing for them is withholding from them. Because the thing you withhold is actually providing something far more valuable. You can't provide a tablet and teach patience. You can't provide this and teach boredom. Boredom is the beginning of creativity and curiosity. We need to withhold some things from our children that our culture says children must have. They have to have it. They can't survive without these things. Oh, yes, they can. And actually, if we would withhold some of these things, they might develop in a healthier way and be able to engage in the world around them, hold conversations. What does protect mean? Protection is about moderating, not eliminating, potential danger. I want to encourage fathers to allow your children to get hurt and do your best to measure the amount of hurt. Let them be a part of situations in their lives that are correct for their age, that are appropriate. Let them feel those pains while they're still under your roof so that you can talk to them about them. Protecting your family is not about removing every single danger. It's about helping to measure the amount of danger. It's about moderating, not eliminating. Lastly, protection of your family is also surrendered to God. There's a macho American ideal of protection of family. You can't touch my house. What? God is the protector of my family. I'll tell you that right now. God is the protector of my family. I care about them. I want to protect them. First and foremost, the number one protection strategy for my family is that I trust God to protect my family. Surrender that. If that's a macho thing for you, surrender that. Verse 18. Whenever it seizes him and it throws him to the ground, he foams at the mouth, gnashing his teeth, and becomes rigid. I want us to think for a second. We have within us fathers that provide and protect, provide and protect, provide and protect. And here's a father that it doesn't look like he's been able to do either. So what do? Dads, we fix. And look at his fix. He says at the beginning, let's go back a little bit, 17, Teacher, he's saying this to Jesus. Teacher, I brought you my son. No, he didn't. He's already tried something out with the disciples at this point. He just brought his son for any help. Can anybody help me fix this problem? He didn't bring just for Jesus. He had first tried with the disciples. This is a father trying to fix a problem. Anybody identify with this? We love to fix. The father wanted to provide for his son. He heard about Jesus. He traveled toward him. Father's big idea didn't work because the disciples couldn't do anything. His son was still sick. So we try to fix. Something's wrong. What do I do about my child? What do I do about my home? What do I do about this? We want to fix. What's the strategy? How do we fix? When we feel within us this bubbling heart of, I want to provide for my family and I want to protect my family, but when I try to engage that in life, it's not, I just can't fix it. What's the strategy? One time I was in a religion office and I met someone who I respect very, very much, and he just said, "What's your name?" I said, "Nathan." He said, "Nathan, what's your story?" And I could tell I had 30 seconds to tell my whole life story. I said, well, I'm the son of a pastor and was raised in the church, but then when I got to a certain age, I had my own ideas and I went away from the church, and that caused me a lot of damage and it caused me a lot of pain, and I'm still recovering from some of that, but I've come back around. I've been called into ministry, and now my family's in Uganda, which we were at the time. He said, "That's a good story." He said, "You ever hunt rabbits?" I'm like, "You are such a professor right now. This is funny." I said, "Nope, I've never hunted rabbits." He said, "When you hunt rabbits, you go up and you find where the rabbits are, and then you just fire your gun and you scare the rabbits. And the rabbits take off, but they're just going to run in a big circle, and when they come back around, bang, gotcha." He said, "I think preachers' kids are kind of like that." And I left and I just thought, he's so smart. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, what is the strategy? I get it. That's a funny little story, but what's the strategy? That's not what my father did. I don't know what my father's strategy was, but I know it wasn't to scare me off and let me go in a big circle. Like, what if my kids do that? What am I going to do? I'm just going to wait for them to come back around? No, I'm going to be scared to death. Is that the strategy? When I have the provide and protect heart burning within me as a father, and it's not working and I just want to fix it and I want to fix it, I'm just going to wait for the rabbit to come back around? I mean, that's cute, but it's not a real strategy. I have another friend that I met. He was an expat, an American. I met him in Uganda, and he had a son who had grown and went into the Air Force, and he had found out that his son had fallen into a depression, had started to encounter some mental problems, and apparently was wandering the streets of Los Angeles in and out of homeless shelters, and nobody knew where he was. So he got on a plane and went to Los Angeles, and he went from homeless shelter to homeless shelter. He wandered under bridges with a picture of his son. He said, "This is my son. Have you seen my son? This is his name. He might call himself by this." Nope. Went to the next. Any fathers with me? You'd do that too, wouldn't you? He went and he found his son, and he helped his son. He put him in a good place. He got him help. And I look at that and I thought, yeah, I think I would do that too. I have my child. There's a problem in their life. I would go across the world. He traveled all the way from Africa to California to help his child. He hunted him down under bridges. And I look at that and I think, yes, provide and protect, fix the problem. But is that the strategy? What actually is done there? Is that what I would do? Is that what you would do? The Father's heart burns within me, and it wants to fix. That's my big idea. My best fatherhood is to love my family and point the way to Jesus. That is my strategy. That's my big idea. I want to be the father that just holds my child and say, Lord, can you fix what I can't fix? You are my big idea. I have within my heart the heart you gave me when you made me. I want to provide and protect for this one. And there's a problem, and I can't fix it. Jesus, you're my big idea. So here it is. Actions of a godly father. This is where we are. You look up there, dads, and you're saying, all right. And I want to qualify right there. I'm not talking only about biological fathers. I'm talking about father figures. The church is brought together for a lot of benefits, and one of them is a room full of fathers. So if you're here on Father's Day and you think, well, I haven't produced children, you have a fatherly role. Please have a fatherly role in the lives of those around you. You say, well, I'm in my elderly years now. No, you have a fatherly role to fathers. I'm a 40-year-old man with teenagers. Dads, help me out. You have a fatherly role. If you've lived some life and you have something to benefit, Father's Day is about the fatherly responsibility to a community. Actions of a godly father. I love God. I've given my life to God. What might I do? 4 things. I'm going to move through them, and we're going to look at the text for this. First thing, godly fathers act with patience. Notice that this dad, end of verse 21 there, says, from childhood. What he's saying is, he's always been like this. This father has been enduring a problem with his child patiently and searching for answers. There's 2 words in Luganda. One is now, which means not now. When are you coming? I'm waiting. I'm coming now. Okay, see you tomorrow. That means it's important to me, but I'm not rushing. If you want them to be now, you say, please come now. Now. Now means you're late already. Now. Some of us, fathers, have something under our roof that we cannot fix now. We have an urgency of now. Relax. If the house is on fire, please go get the hose now. If there are character developments in your children, please fix them now. Here's the statement. Don't try to fix in a day what love will do in a lifetime. There's an ancient technique of hunting called persistence hunting. And all you do is you get a group of very, very high stamina, fit hunters who are trackers. And they find and spook an animal in the heat of the day. And then they just jog and track that animal until finally the animal gets so tired it cannot run any further. But these men have been smart, and they've been carrying water, and they've been tracking and pacing themselves. They rest in the shade for a second to cool down, and they keep tracking. And the whole plan is to make the animal tire out because they've been strategic, and they will always outlast. So they walk up to the animal, which just lays there out of energy, and the animal is caught. The strategy to catch, I will outlast you. Fathers, be persistent. Outlast, don't overwhelm. Sometimes we want to fix it all now. But our God is patient with us, isn't he? So let's be patient. Fix it now, but not now. Godly fathers are patient. Godly fathers are dependent. He says, I brought you my son, which means I can't, but Jesus can. How powerful it is for you to hear your father say that. How powerful it is for your children to hear you say that there's something you can't do, that there's something that you depend on Jesus for. Maybe you assume your children know that. They don't. Your children look up to you and think that you are Superman, and you can do everything. You're untouchable. You have to actually train them, show them you are dependent, that you have needs, that there's things that you just can't do. Child, I'm going to take you from here to here, but this is the place where Dad stops and Jesus begins. I can only touch your soul so deep. After that, I need you to need Jesus if you want to go any further than that. That's dependence. Fathers, we need to say this to each other. Show your children what you cannot do. Here's another statement. What you display, you permit. So if you display dependence, I am your father and I'm dependent on the other men in my life to encourage me. I'm dependent on your mother to support me and to hold me accountable. I'm dependent on God to give me strength every day. I'm dependent on when you show them your dependency, you also permit them. If you pretend you have no dependency, you don't give them permission to be dependent. Now they have to pretend. Fathers are patient. Fathers are dependent. Fathers are honest. What an honest statement it is to say to Jesus, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. Even more honest because Jesus has just pointed to the crowd and said, you unbelieving generation. Now that's a trigger word. He's so honest, he used it anyway. Yeah, I'm one of them, Jesus. Help me in my unbelief. That's immense honesty. Fathers, if you're godly, tell your children the truth. Fathers who tell the truth raise children who tell the truth. If it is this way, say it's this way. If it's not that way, don't say it's that way. I'm not saying that you give a 2-year-old stuff that's for a 16-year-old or a 16-year-old stuff that's for a 30-year-old. It needs to be appropriate, but you don't need to mask anything. Just say, here's where we are. Here's where we are. Just be honest. We are patient. We are dependent. We are honest. Godly fathers are humble. Once the son is healed, look at the end of the story here. Verse 26, the spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said he's dead. But are you guys seeing the dad anywhere? He's gone. The father is never spoken of again. The role of the father is not to accept pats on the back for fixing and arranging the life exactly right. The only thing the dad did in the story was to say, I couldn't fix my son. Jesus, take my son. And once Jesus took the son, you never see the father again. Part of the success of fatherhood is passing on, not being needed and necessary for the entirety of the life of your children. The father's never heard from again. How does this feel in everyday life? Fathers, you've already encountered this. There are moments in your family where it's not about you. You're not the point of the story. You might have an emotion about a certain thing, but you know, I'm getting ready to walk in and I'm going to deal with this. And right now, my emotions are not a point of the story here. To be a good father, I got to set that here, and I need to go in because me being a good father in the moment is me being all about them. Patience, dependence, honesty, and humility. I want to tell you one of my great concerns, and I prayed about it, and we prayed about it before the service, and I hope that it has been fulfilled this morning. Sometimes Father's Day sermons can make all the dads in the room feel like, oh, just not measuring up. I just didn't cut it again. Here's all the stuff I did wrong. I'm just not going to make it. I'm not a good dad. Thanks for the reminder, Pastor. That's not the goal of today. That is not the goal of today. I believe you love your children. I believe that you are fathering to the best of your ability, and I believe we can all get better. I believe that God the Father has shown us an example supreme to every other fatherly example. And I believe that this morning is a great morning as we close in this moment. Regardless of whether you have children under your roof, you have a fatherly responsibility to our congregation. I'm rattling through names in my head right now of people that I know that you came into Father's Day thinking about other fathers. I want you to think about you. What can you do in a fatherly manner to help us? Here's how we close. The altar is open to the fathers. This is an opportunity this morning to recommit to your role of godly fatherhood. You're not saying, I've been a bad father. You're saying, I want to be a better father. And I'm with you. Every single day, I want to learn today what I can do better tomorrow. I want to learn from that father what I can put into my life. And I want to take an opportunity right now for us to come forward as fathers and say, I recommit myself to this role. God has given and put on my shoulders an immense responsibility, and I take it seriously. Let's take the length of this song. If you want to come forward, fathers, and just say, I'm recommitting to my role as a father, not even just to the children under my roof, but to the other fathers in this room, to the children of other fathers, anything I can do to help set the standard and raise the bar and hold accountable and be a man of integrity. Let's do that now. Let's recommit to our role of godly fatherhood.